Bomb, ba-bomb, 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 ba-bomb. Scaredy Cat. Welcome back to Scaredy Cat. I am Robbie.
I'm Ash.
And this is the podcast where one person, myself, who loves horror films,
And someone else who does not like them.
watch and review them so you don't have to. How are you today, Ash?
I'm fine.
On this wonderful Saturday afternoon. What are we on, Sunday?
It's Sunday, but whenever you're listening to this, it'll be Monday.
Monday.
It'll be May 1st, which is May Day, which is International NSYNC Day.
Why is it NSYNC Day?
Because it's going to be May.
Nah.
We're also coming up on Cinco de Mayo, which is all...
And May the 4th.
And May the 4th.
May the 4th be with you.
So it's a busy week for people who love
Puns.
NSYNC, tacos, and Star Wars.
I like tacos.
You've been talking about tacos for weeks.
Oh, I like tacos.
And since we've recently become vegetarians, procuring tacos is slightly more complicated.
Truth. So we've been delving into Hellraiser for
Years. Literally years. 10 years.
most of our
a
life
decade.
at this point.
A decade.
We decided since the rest of them went straight to video, we're just going to do one giant direct-to-video.
Megasode.
We're going to break down all the remaining 5, but we'll try to do it as quickly as possible because there's a lot to get through.
So Rob's just going to yell super fast.
So you ready to get started on this?
Were you going to finish your exposition?
I think I've finished. Did I miss anything?
Okay, I don't know. I stopped listening.
Oh, okay. So did everybody else, so you're in good company.
It's fine.
So up first...
Oh, wait!
So Ashley has tormented me with this kazoo for weeks.
We just got it today.
Since you ordered it, and you've been practicing.
It turns out...
And then you got to the moment, and you choked.
It turns out you can't just blow into a kazoo. You have to hum. And I didn't know that. Neither one of us knew that. And so we got it and we were like, this fucking thing doesn't work. And then I read and you hum. You don't sing. I mean, you don't blow.
Up first is 2000's Hellraiser 5 Inferno. 3 of these movies are not even Hellraiser movies.
I'm shocked. I'm so shocked. Can you see the shocked look on my face?
You can tell that they kind of just shoehorned Pinhead in.
Yeah.
So in this first direct-to-video sequel, a corrupt Denver cop, which actually watched this movie in Colorado and was like, hey, Denver.
So now we know what all your cops are up to.
Right. He's on the trail of a mass murderer known as the Engineer. It starts off with him playing chess. I can't figure out what
With
they were
an
trying
old professor or something.
Do you think they were trying to say that he's really smart?
Oh, maybe they were saying like this whole thing was him playing chess. Like everybody else is playing checkers. But he's playing chess.
But that wouldn't make any sense because everything he does from here on out...
The movie doesn't make any sense.
He does cocaine. He does cocaine that he hides in his locker at work. He cheats on his wife with a prostitute while doing cocaine.
That's when I would do it. That's when I do it.
It seemed like they Wikipedia'd what is a corrupt cop, and then they just wrote down everything that they had.
Was Wikipedia a thing in 2000? Did we have internet back then?
Magna Carted it.
Oh, maybe they consulted their Encyclopedia Britannicas.
Ooh. Do you remember when that came on, like, computers? And
I do.
You had, like, 6 different discs that you had to load in?
All the discs. My grandma has the actual encyclopedias, the brown book. I remember when my grandma got those. It was like a big deal.
Used to be
thousands of dollars.
It used to be like door-to-door salesman, right?
Yeah. Somebody come to your house and sell you a whole bunch of books in your living room. Can you imagine that now?
I remember a vacuum cleaner salesman showing up like
I've
that.
never seen anything like that before.
Kirby vacuums.
Oh, Kirby was a big pink fluffy person in Pac-Man.
But
Kirby.
Kirby vacuums are the ones that they still sell door to door.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Okay. Let's keep going.
All right. He's chasing down a murderer named the Engineer.
Which is the dumbest name for this particular set of murders.
That is true. Like, why was he the Engineer?
There's no reason. Come up with a cooler fucking name.
The only thing that he did was, like, he murdered people, and the first body was, like, just a pile of guts.
Right.
And they found a kid's finger nearby.
Or they found a finger in a candle, wasn't it?
Yes, yeah. It was, like, inside the candle.
Which is gross.
But why was he the Engineer?
I don't know. I was confused by that the whole time.
The only thing I can think of is he was the guy in the white suit from The Matrix Reloaded. But
possibly.
After finding the puzzle box at the crime scene, he opens it and begins hallucinating.
Because why the fuck not?
He hallucinates the new Cenobites, which they never call Cenobites.
They look a lot like this artist that I got super into in college that I cannot for the life of me remember his name. I've been trying to figure it out for a week and a half. I can't remember it. I can't find my book.
Well, they traded in like facial features for just like
faceless, sexy.
Yeah, it looks
ladies.
like somebody took a piece of clay and just went.
Yeah.
And that was the face. I will say that they had the creepiest scene in the movie when he's going through the hallway and you see the fingers come over the top of the ledge.
Yeah, that was pretty scary.
That was probably the only creepy moment of the movie. But there's 3 Cenobites. There's the faceless twin girls.
They stick their hands inside his chest.
Yeah.
That was gross.
That was pretty cool.
I was like, oh, they're killing him. They stuck their hands inside his chest.
with their
song.
Words. And then there's a 3rd Cenobite who doesn't really do anything the whole time. It's just a torso and a head and arms.
It's not a torso. We talked about this earlier. A torso is your midsection. It is just arms, a neck, and a head, and that's it.
And it just like climbs upstairs.
Yeah.
Its only purpose is to come around corners. That's all it ever does in this film.
Creepily. I mean, but that's it. Like, what could it possibly do to you?
The department starts getting worried about him, so they send him to a therapist who, surprise, ends up being the engineer because, of course. And then, surprise again, and this is obviously where they change the script, he ends up being Pinhead.
Right, that was really weird.
Pinhead has a total of a scene in this film.
Yeah. And
he says like 2 lines. But you end up finding out that this guy is actually dead, and this is all the stuff that he's imagining.
Well, and at some point, so he blows off his wife to have sex with a sex worker, excuse me.
What?
The sex worker ends up being murdered in a pretty brutal fashion in the bathtub of the hotel room. She calls him at work and she's screaming.
Oh yeah.
So then he and his partner, they end up at the hotel, and then
he frames him.
Yeah, and he walks in, the partner walks in, and he's like, what the fuck did you do? And the guy's like, I don't know, I didn't do this.
What did you do?
And then he takes, our corrupt cop takes a pin out of the...
And a pack of cigarettes.
And a pack of cigarettes out of the squad car that belonged to his partner and plants them in the hotel room to frame his very nice partner for the murder of a sex worker.
And in the end, you find out that, oh no, this is all in his head. He's been dead. He's in hell. And Pinhead's been torturing him. The kid, so they've been trying to find this kid that's losing these fingers because every death has a new finger.
Right.
But it turns out that kid is actually him as a kid. Yeah, real weird.
At some point, they talk to a guy who has tattoos all over his body and face. And remember, and he's got a barbed wire tattoo, like a Celtic barbed wire tattoo around the top of his head, because only super douches get barbed wire around the top of their head. Like, that's a douchey tattoo to begin with, but on the top of your head.
What if he was trying to keep people out of his brain?
Oh, like it's his version of a tinfoil hat?
Yeah.
Suddenly, he seems less crazy.
Right.
Makes sense to me.
Any other thoughts about this movie?
This had nothing to do with Hellraiser or Pinhead or the story of Hellraiser.
Just kind of a one-off.
But I would like to say, as someone who does like true crime, I don't like horror movies, but I could sit through 3 full days of Law & Order SVU on TBS or whatever.
I know, yes.
I do appreciate the true crime angle that they came at this from because, and we talked about this before, you have... Throughout the 4 previous movies, you have all these people that have died. That's insane body count. At some point, there's gonna be a police investigation. At some point. So this did a really shitty job of showing you what the other part of that would look like.
So you're saying the concept would be a police picking up on the Hellraiser theme.
Right. I would like a Hot Fuzz type scenario where they talk to you about the paperwork involved.
Cops.
And, oh, shit, look at all these bodies. There's going to be a lot of paperwork. That I would watch all day long because that sounds interesting. Or a detective, figuring out who Pinhead was and how he got there and blah, blah, blah. That, if you're going to do a remake, that's one that I would go see.
This is directed by Scott Derrickson. Does the name sound familiar?
Yes, but no.
Scott Derrickson directed Doctor Strange.
Oh, okay.
And he's directed a couple other horror films, but he's a legit director who jumped on this thing. A common theme for all of these films, save the last one, is that these are all mostly happening in people's heads, and that they're all dream sequences. So that you can scare people and terrible things can happen, and then they wake up, it's like, oh, nothing really happened. That
Right.
happens over and over and over again.
Constantly. It's very confusing.
It's confusing, and it just is it's a cheap way of throwing in scares.
Yes.
Moving on, number 2.
Hellraiser number 6, Hellseeker, was it in 2002. Kirsty is back.
Yay!
Kirsty. Excuse me. That's super exciting because I really like Kirsty.
Give some background on who Kirsty is.
Right.
If you didn't
She's
hear.
from the first 2 films.
Yeah, she makes that a weird appearance in the third one, but she's not really in it.
Right. She's from the first 2. She was basically the main character.
Yeah, she's Frank, who is the guy who gets
Everybody. He starts this whole mess.
Yeah, he started basically. His niece is Kirsty, and Kirsty is pretty much the hero of that film.
Yeah, 100%. She and her husband was going to look really familiar because he was both Mayhem from the insurance commercials, and he played a very large role on a recent season of Law & Order SVU. So, that was fun. They are in a car, they're tickling each other, he drives off a cliff. Kirsty drowns.
Or does she?
Mostly because she doesn't know the basics of being a passenger.
There's 3 things, basically, you shouldn't do as a passenger. 1, grab the wheel and yank on it. 2, grab the gear shift. And 3, don't distract the goddamn driver.
So, right after Kirsty, supposedly dies in this car accident or whatever.
Or does she?
Which is why it said supposedly. He starts getting bombarded by, sexual advances from literally every woman around him. So...
Or does he?
So, there's a doctor. She starts hitting on him while he's in the hospital, asking about his dead wife.
I don't remember the doctor doing it.
Oh, yeah.
I remember the boss. I remember
was super flirty.
Neighbor. I don't remember the boss.
It was just
the doctor.
It wasn't actual advance, but she was it was super flirt. So then his neighbor, when he gets back to his apartment, he never seems particularly upset that Kirsty is dead or missing or anything because he thinks that he's seen her drown in the car. They're telling him that she's not dead, she's missing. Presumed dead, but she's not there. The detectives are saying that, they suspect foul play because the doors were open, there were no skid marks, blah, blah, blah. So then when he gets back to his apartment, after, finding out that his wife is not in the car, that she's really missing, not particularly upset looking about it or anything like that.
Well, his acting style in this was very dry.
He's a very distant
he's obviously a good actor because we've seen him do some pretty good things, like Mayhem especially.
But I think that's just his personality.
But it could also be the film itself just wasn't well executed.
That is a big possibility. Also, did you notice he was always wearing a button-up shirt, and it was always a little bit too big. The early 2000s was the time of super billowy, big button-up shirts. So, anyways,
and this one came out in 2002, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, the neighbor from next door gets a tattoo on her right underneath her belly button, which is unadvisable to get a tattoo on your belly button. It's never going to work out in the long run for you.
What if you got butt cheeks?
On your belly button?
And you could squeeze them together and be
like it's an anus? Your belly button's an anus?
Yeah, or you could get a little mouth and you could make it talk.
I don't think that's what she was going for. It didn't seem like a funny tattoo. It seemed like a sexy tattoo.
A sexy tattoo.
So she comes over, shows him her tattoo. Then she kind of starts trying to make out with him. And he's like, hey, hang on a second.
My wife just died.
Yeah, just kind of flippant about it, not super upset. Yeah. Just meh, she died.
He's pretty stone-faced through the whole movie.
Maybe that's just the kind of person he is,
I think he was trying to pull a Keanu Reeves where you're supposed to emote through him.
So his boss starts hitting on him. Weird things are happening.
His coworker is
he's
continuously
got his
challenging him.
His cubicle mate is always up in his shit all the time. He's must be nice to have banker's hours. And then the day after his wife dies, he goes back to work.
His wife just died.
But he didn't say anything. He was just yeah, that's true. I should be here earlier.
I think of this film as it's a change from the typical style of a Hellraiser film. Usually they're told with a fixed camera and it's about the characters. This one is just about him. Everybody else is secondary.
Even though we had Kirsty.
They took the camera off the tripod, and they pretty much just shouldered it the whole time. So it gives this more like personal feel to the movie.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a complete, and it wasn't bad. Like I didn't mind just watching this guy roll around for an hour and a half.
So he also, on his bulletin board in his cubicle, there's a card behind a piece of paper. Did you notice the name of the company that he worked for?
Cubic, right?
Mm-hmm. Cubic Industries.
Yes.
Cubic, like the cube.
Puzzle box. Which was round in this. Was it in this film that was round?
That wasn't round.
It starts off as round and then it turns into the square.
I didn't see that. Oh, yes. But so there's a little card on his bulletin board that says all problems solved. So throughout the film, you get these little pieces of flashback to where he went to a person in a warehouse full of really creepy,
it's
like...
a homeless-looking dude. But, by the way, one of the things I've enjoyed the most about these films is the scenes where Doug Bradley, who plays Pinhead, isn't playing Pinhead. He's playing like somebody else. It's when he's playing the weird British officer from the second film and slightly playing like something else. But in this one, he plays the bum that hands him the card.
I didn't realize that.
That's also Doug Bradley's with hair, which is strange.
Yeah. So he goes to this warehouse that's full of people that are staring at him. We've got some John Waters / Ed Gein stuff going on, where like this woman is wearing like a boob suit made out of human skin.
It looks like somebody took some rawhide and just like
made boobs out of it.
Yeah,
it was really weird. We learned that he's asked to have all of his problems solved.
I would imagine. No, he wants to fix. His problem is his wife has too much money,
right?
And he doesn't have any money.
Well, that's not the problem.
That's the big problem.
The problem is that he's a dick.
Right. So we find out that, again, he had amnesia when he came out of the water, and he's invented this whole thing where he was in love with his wife,
that
and
he
like
was
they
a
had
super
a good
nice
relationship.
Dude.
You start finding out that, no, he was cheating on her all the time, and he wanted her money, so he was going to kill her.
With the QB dude next door. The guy that was all up in his shit.
Right. Which was strange.
And then that guy killed himself. It was so sad.
Yeah.
Did you get the idea that maybe he was also sleeping with the QB dude next door?
I bet he was sleeping. He was sleeping with everybody in this
film. He was.
Everybody wanted him. He was everybody's desire.
I think they were lovers because when the guy killed himself, he was like, I would rather... I don't want to go to jail. I would rather go to hell with you. And then he killed himself. A lot of suicide in these movies.
Yeah. A lot of dream sequences, a lot of suicide.
Yeah, it's all very depressing.
But anyway, at the end, you find out again, he died in the car crash. He drowned. And
he died because my girl Kirsty got to Pinhead first.
She broke rule number 1. She grabs the wheel and she yanks the wheel.
That's not what happened.
That's exactly what happened.
No, sir.
Yeah, it goes back and shows you a flashback
No.
where they're driving along in the car.
No. No. Stop and listen. Flip it and reverse it. That's not what happened. So you find out that our main character, this dude, his name is Trevor. Which we've not told you anyone's name, but Trevor is the husband. Trevor is given a puzzle box by the guy who says that he can solve all of Trevor's problems, right? So he gives him the puzzle box. Trevor knows, more than likely, that Kirsty has had this past. So
he does know.
Yeah.
He does know.
So he gives Kirsty the puzzle box as an anniversary gift, which most dick gift on an anniversary I've seen since my dad gave my mom a baseball glove.
Right.
So she's like, why'd you do this to us? You know, how could you do this? I trusted you. And he was like, just open it. Just open it. And she's like, is this really what you want? And he was like, just open it. And she's like, well, I hope it's everything you ever wanted. And she opens the box. So then we see Pinhead talking to Kirsty. And he's like, okay, so, you know, I've used Trevor to get to you. And so now I'm here to take what's mine. Like, I want your soul. And she's like, well, what if I give you 6 other evil souls instead of me? And he's like, sure, let's do it. So she helps Pinhead murder the 2 of the women that her husband is sleeping with.
So yeah, you got the masseuse.
Oh yeah, the masseuse who's giving
You got
him
the
acupuncture.
neighbor,
The tummy tattoo.
neighbor. You've got the
His boss, who he's having sex with.
who gets strangled or suffocated while like he watches on video, which is obviously happening in front of him, but he can't see it because who knows?
Because he's not there.
It's some kind of weird dream sequence. And you've got the coworker.
Maybe it was just 5. Seems like there should be one more though. Anyways, so then we go back to where they're in the car and he imagines the tickle fight. And it's really...
I don't think he's imagining that, though. I think that's how it all set in place.
Well, so...
Because remember at the very end, Kirsty's talking to the cops and she's like, I just don't know what happened. Like, she's all wet. So that really happened.
I know. Hang on. So, they're in the car. She says, I know about his boss. I know about Allison, the tummy tattoo girl. I know about these people. I know about the guy that he was trying to kill her with. She was like, I know about these things. And he was like, well, I made a deal. And she said, well, I made a better deal. And he liked mine. Mm-hmm. And so then she pulls out a gun and she shoots him in the head while they're driving. Then they drive off the bridge into the water. So then they're pulling her husband out of the water and the car. And she's all wrapped up in a towel. She's talking to the cop, and she's like, I don't know what happened. He just shot himself while we were driving.
All right, so I'm revising my rules for a passenger. There's now 4. 1, don't yank on the wheel. 2, don't change the gear shift. 3, don't distract the driver. And 4, don't shoot the driver in the head.
It's going to put a damper in your...
How is she going to know she was going to survive that?
Well, I mean, I think the deal was, like, she just wanted him not to. So,
but can Pinhead keep you from killing yourself?
Yes.
It seems like, because he's kind of like a genie, like the evil genie. If the deal you make ends up killing you too, he'll gladly take you as well.
I guess.
So he could have been setting her up.
Possibly.
Anyway.
So that's how it ends.
Kirsty once again survives.
Ultimate survivor story.
And then she rides off into the sunset.
With her puzzle box.
To disappear from the series again.
Yeah.
So the next 2, Deader and Hellworld, were actually filmed back-to-back by the same director.
Which is not shocking because they look very, very similar.
They have a different tone. They have like that, I'm trying to get the younger audience tone.
Well, yeah. When
more boobies.
When was Deader made?
They're both made in 2005.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Because in 2005, we were coming out of the late 90s, early 2000s, the like grunge damage girl like scenario that was set up in basically every movie and every song that you ever heard.
Deader and Hellworld, by the way, both not Hellraiser scripts, both adapted.
Shock. Right.
But in Deader, it's about a reporter who investigates an underground suicide cult.
She looks a lot like Ashley Judd.
Ashley Judd? I got more like Alanis Morissette.
Really?
She looks a lot like Alanis Morissette.
I did not get that. I think you haven't seen a picture of Alanis Morissette in a long time.
Maybe.
She looks exactly like Ashley Judd. Like really young Ashley Judd.
She's investigating an underground suicide cult called Deaders.
Do you think they were a suicide? Sure.
Yeah, the whole thing was death. They were like, we're conquering death. So they would like commit suicide and then be brought back.
I guess. By a weird dude named Winter.
Well, he was a descendant of Le Marchand, who wrote the Le Marchand
toy maker.
Book. But see, that was one of those things that they were like, what if we just called him the descendant? Like, yeah.
That's a douchey name. If some guy is named Winter and he's like,
it's probably not his fault.
Hey, come join my cult. That's not.
No, yeah. If he has a cult.
He's like, hey, just go ahead and kill yourself. Only I can bring you back.
Leroy when he was born.
His name is like Ted or Doug.
Leroy Le Marchand.
His name is definitely Doug.
So yeah, he wants to open the puzzle box. Leroy Le Marchand.
I have an uncle named Leroy.
Right.
He looks like Beetlejuice.
So he wants to open the puzzle box because he thinks he can control Pinhead.
Right. He can't. No one can control Pinhead. Pinhead is no one's bitch.
Right. And there's a weird train scene where, like, because people he raises up in his cult are dead, but they still walk around. So like zombies.
Because they do this weird. We should back up a second.
Okay.
So how we find out about all of this is because this is pretty important to the plot. is because so our reporter, Ashley Judd, works at a paper in London called the London Underground. And her boss, who she...
Or the Lunderground.
The Lunderground. Who she apparently was sleeping with at some point in time, brings her into his office, and he's like, hey, I have a tape to show you. And it's a tape that they were sent from the cult of someone...
Do you think this is like a press release for the cult?
Probably.
Like, hey, check out our video.
Someone shot themselves in the head, and then Winter either made out with her or sucked something out of her soul.
Yes, makes out with them after they're dead.
And brings them back to life.
A little bit of necrophilia, and then brings them back.
Yeah. And so she's like, what the fuck?
Just a touch of necrophilia. And not like full-out necrophilia. Just a slight touch.
Sure.
Just enough to be like, shocking, edgy. For 2005.
Sure. You're doing a lot of hand motions when you say that. It's very funny. So he's like, so will you go get this story for me? Because she's just coming off of a story about, and literally they show us the title of her article, and it is How to Be a Crack Whore. So that's what she's coming off of.
Maybe that was like a working title. Maybe she's going to change that somewhere along the way.
No.
I do that sometimes. You know, we write
printed,
like a funny name.
It was printed in the paper.
Maybe not then.
So he's
Maybe
like,
she said the wrong title.
He's like, go get me this story. And she's like, well, it's in Transylvania. Or no, Romania. Romania? Where was it? Hang on. I wrote that down too. It was in Romania. So she goes to Romania to get this story. She finds the house where the return address for the tape was at. She goes in, finds a girl who had hung herself in a sitting position. Yeah. Is that even possible? Like, she was like...
She had to poop, but she wanted to kill herself at the same time.
No.
That's what happened.
Well, you do lose your bowels.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's... She was
so
just
she was
being
trying
considerate.
to be considerate to the cleaning lady that
Not
found
that
her.
Suicide is funny. Is absolutely not. So, she...
There's like a 10-minute scene where she tries to... Because there's
the envelope.
There's an envelope in the bathroom with this girl who's probably been there for like a week.
I'd say longer. Her face is like starting to decay.
And I was like, okay, so the girl's gonna like jump out at her. But they drug that out forever.
For a really long time.
In fact, she even gets through. She gets the envelope. She gets out of the room. And then she has to go back in for some reason. No, she
goes
gets
back
out.
And gets the puzzle box out of the girl's hand.
She has to reach right across her face to get it. Gets out of the room. Comes back in to get the puzzle box. Rips the puzzle box out of her hand. Rigor mortis is set in. And it's closed around the box. So not a bad scene. Like, it wasn't bad. She had to, like, open her hand up. Finally, the girl jumps at her. And for what? Why did she wait?
It didn't make any sense.
Why did she suddenly open her eyes and be like, and then go back to sleep?
She stuck her hand out, and then she went back to sleep. And then she gets chased out by a big dude who the fuck knows why he was even there.
It felt like studio notes. And the guy's like, oh, fuck it, fine. And they go back and film a little bit where she just jumps at her real quick.
Right.
She goes to confront well,
she goes home. She watches the tape. Or she goes to her hotel. She watches the tape. It's the girl who had hung herself. And she's saying, you have to save us. Only you can do it. If you're watching this, it's because you're chosen to save us. We didn't want to die. Blah, blah, blah. There's also a key in the envelope with the tape. And it's got a red dot on it. The key does.
Mm.
So.
She goes to the guy on the train. There's like a...
Oh, yeah, because the tape tells her to go to the guy on the train.
It's like Stephen Dorff's older brother, or younger brother, maybe.
He's got like white boy Coolio hair.
He's very 2005 chic.
Not
And this train, the train is like, it's like a moving rave.
The Deaders. They call themselves the Deaders.
Yes. It's also where we get our obligatory nudity from the movie.
The whole time he's explaining to her what these people are and how she shouldn't go, there are two women having very graphic, like, lesbian sex behind him.
I wouldn't say graphic so much as just, like, writhing. The director's like, okay, in the background, you guys are fucking. That's what you're doing. You're fucking in the background. So.
But they're, like, not actual lesbians. So, they're just, like, girls.
Yeah, and so they're like, okay, so how are we supposed to fake fucking for, like, the whole shoot? As we shoot all these scenes. All right, we'll just writhe. We'll just writhe in the background here. That'll work. She goes back to see him again later on. And that's when you find out that everybody on the train is dead.
Okay, so she goes and sees she gets led to the cult, to the death cult. Turns out the key had a red dot on it. So did the lock to get into the cult's house. The cult's house.
Right.
had a red dot on it also. So there she knows to put the key in the lock because they both have dots. So she opens it, she goes in, she gets let in by a guy, and he takes her to a thing where they are bringing someone back to life. Guy just stabbed himself in the tummy, and Winter makes out with him and brings him back to life. So when you would think that they would do the death the same way each time, they don't. It's different every time.
It's like he's just playing around.
It's like, what's the point?
I guess he gets bored, you know.
But I mean, what is the point there? It seems like you would find the least messy way to do it and just do that.
Maybe everybody just takes sleeping pills, you know.
She watches them bring somebody back to life. She learns that it's legit. And then, you know, she looks around and she sees everybody's got these, like, crazy wounds on them. Like, the gunshot girl was there. She still had the gunshot wound in her head. The guy that let her in held his wrist out. His wrists are slit. They're still bleeding. Like, everybody's all still bleeding from everything.
Yeah, they're all zombies.
They're all offering her their blood or whatever. So she runs out, understandably freaked out. She goes back to her hotel room, goes to sleep. And then she wakes up because she feels like blood coming over her shoulder, like onto her chest. She gets up. She's got blood everywhere. She runs to the bathroom. And she's like, where is this coming from? She's got some sort of thing in the middle of her chest. And she looks, and there's a knife poking through the front of her chest. So then, in the most boss move I've ever seen in my life, she uses the cabinet door to pull the knife out of her own back. So after she pulls, I forgot about a part, after she pulls the knife out of her back and duct tapes she walks into her bedroom, she's still covered in blood, Hellraiser is standing there, and she says that he did this, and he's like, this isn't my handiwork, you're looking for someone else. And then he says... He
wants her help, right?
Well, he says, don't you think it's weird that you don't feel any pain right now?
Yeah, he basically explains to her that she's dead.
That's because you've been recruited.
Yeah.
So then she washes off all the blood and duct tapes a towel to her back. It doesn't work super well because when she walks through the train station later, so she leaves. She walks to a train station. She's bleeding everywhere.
This is when she finds out everybody on the train is dead.
Because she goes back to Joey on the train. And no, she shows him her wound. He talks about her tits and asks her if they're real. And he's like, you and I are the same. We never know when to get off the train. And then he just stops talking.
Yeah, he lays back.
She pulls up his sunglasses and sees that he's dead. Looks around her. Everybody on the train is dead.
Then Marla shows up.
Right. Significantly more decayed than she was before. She says that, you know, Winter is looking... Like, Winter can't solve the puzzle. He's looking for someone that can.
Moving on, because we got like 2 more to get through.
Well, she wakes up back in the bed. Yeah. Winter says that she has to complete it by killing herself. And so she grabs the knife from him. She acts like she's going to do it. She ends up stabbing the table. And she's like, no, I'm not going to do that. She says, fuck you. And then, she says, you can go to hell. And then she throws the puzzle box, which was sitting on the table. Pinhead appears. He calls Winter out for being a dick, for being like an imposter. Yep. He's the descendant of a toy maker, and he should have kept with the family business instead of trying to be a cult leader because he's got no testes. So Pinhead's real pissed. So chains happen. They rip Winter apart. 4
of these 5 films end with the main dude, the main bad guy,
getting ripped apart by chains. Yeah. So then Pinhead says, and this is one of my favorite things that he says in this whole series. He says he's talking to all the debtors, all the people that have killed themselves and Winter brought them back. He says, this world obviously disappoints you, and allow me to finish what Winter started. And he kills them all. So then he says to our main character, and he's like, so now you belong to me. You have to...
See, this is what I'm talking about. This is where, like, Pinhead may make a deal, but he wants everybody anyway.
Right. So he's like, you have to come with me. And she says, I wouldn't give my soul to him. I'm sure as fuck not going to give it to you. And then she kills herself. Yep. And then, this is the last thing I'll say. Then we end up back in her editor's office in London. And he's watching the news about, this death cult was uncovered and all these people are dead and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, any word from Amy? And everybody's like, no, we've not heard from her. And then his secretary comes in and says, oh, your 3 o'clock's here. It's this cute little brunette. And then he says, oh, welcome, welcome, welcome. And then he says, I have a tape to show you. So we find out that he's been feeding girls to this death cult this whole time.
But how is he supposed to keep feeding him to the death cult if the death cult's all gone.
It's all gonna come back. End of number 7.
On to the one that was filmed back to back with this.
Jesus
It's
H.
also Doug Bradley's last time as Pinhead.
Did you notice that the pins turned gold in the previous movie? They had always been silver, and in the last one they were gold, and they continue to be gold for the next 2.
I maintain that the best that Pinhead ever looks is in Bloodline.
Yeah.
Until this movie, Pinhead never exerts any energy. All he does is he kind of looks at you, and the chains come out and do the dirty work for him. That changes in this film.
Yes, it does. Just for a second, though.
Just for a second. He just 1 second, but we'll get there. So
everybody has a moment of weakness, I guess.
This is the 3rd adapted script that is about the Hellraiser franchise taking place in like the real world, where everybody knows who Pinhead is, and there's a game that's developed, like an online game, where you can play.
It's kind of like Scream.
Yeah, they never really talk about the game. Like they mention little things about it, but you never really get a sense of how the game is played.
Right.
Apparently, people are really, really into it. They have these like parties that are like Hellraiser themed. What do you think about it? Number 3 had a party that was like Hellraiser themed. Remember, they had all the like leftover. The guy had been collecting all the little bits.
But it wasn't like, oh, this is Hellraiser.
Right. 5 friends mourning the death of one of their fellow players who kills himself before the movie begins.
He was too involved in the game. And again, a lot of suicide in these movies.
So he kills himself. His 5 friends get invited to a party that takes place at the Leviathan house, which is also the first time we see a mention of Leviathan since the 3rd one.
I still only think of Farscape when I hear Leviathan.
But no, since number 2, the actual like weird spinning diamond in the middle.
Yeah.
So at the house, the host of the party takes them on a tour of many layers of the home and starts killing them off. Or does he?
Dun dun dun. Oh, wait.
Come for the conversation. Stay for the kazoo. I forgot to mention that Henry Cavill, Superman, is in this film. This is one of his first films.
He will henceforth be known as Superman.
The super dickhead is what he should be called.
No, I think he was a stereotypical, like, jock character.
Dude bro. He's a dude bro in this film. At the house, he starts picking them off one by one in very, like, graphic, gory ways. Mm-hmm. The final 2 victims realize that most of this movie is really just a hallucination and they're having because they're actually buried underground.
Yes, he gave him some drugs.
The host drugged them, and he is the father of the guy who commits suicide at the beginning of the film.
Right.
And he's getting revenge on them by burying them underground and having them hallucinate everything. Which, by the way, he talks about, like, he put cell phones inside their caskets or their coffins, and he's been, like, feeding them suggestions. So all the characters who've been having sex, he's been whispering in their ear like, "Ooh, you're fucking right now. Ooh, you're having sex."
Which is pretty gross.
Like, really?
But I mean, I guess if you're gonna, like, drug and bury teenagers, like, what is your line? You know what I mean? What is your barrier for entry as far as, like, what is and is not moral to do?
I mean, it's just weird that he would do all these, like, little subplots in their heads.
Yeah, the movie, to me, got a little bit twisted in certain parts because we're following each of these characters individually. And so we're seeing, like, all their thoughts and emotions surrounding things, and, like, you know, one character is stuck somewhere, and then we leave her, and then we do the 4 other stories, and then we come back to her, and she's still stuck in the same place, and it's just like, the fuck?
And they go through whole scenes where, like, the cops show up and she's trying to get their attention, but they can't see her.
It's like Scream, but not as good.
On and on and on and on.
And it's hitting you in the face with it. It hits you in the face with the fact that they're not really experiencing what they think they're experiencing, like, over and over and over and over again. And they
over-explain every part. Like, he has exposition at the end where he explains everything that happened.
Yeah, like, he monologues. Yeah. Like, the whole thing, and tells you, like, start to finish how he did it, what underwear he was wearing when he did it, what he had for breakfast last week. His favorite tea. He tells you everything. And it's like, dude, leave something to the imagination. It's like when people write books and they, like, describe the grass and shit. It's like, I know what grass looks like.
Or a ticking clock.
Yeah, like, give me a minute. Oh, I get it.
Yeah. So the female who is dressed like your typical 2005-esque goth chick, who's British in this
For
film.
some reason.
She gets killed by a chair.
I would like to say something.
Okay, you say it.
Thank
Say
you.
it all you want. Say it twice.
Thank you for giving me the platform on which to say
You're
things.
welcome.
Or I guess from which to say things.
From which?
So, this girl is British. She has what we lovingly referred to, or not we, but was lovingly referred to in my house as the chicken butt haircut.
Yes.
I also had this haircut when I was in high school. It is where you leave your bangs long, your hair is parted down the middle in a butt crack fashion, and then the back of your hair is super duper short, and you spike it up, like, towards the sky. So it looks like a chicken's butt. And I was also blonde, so it looked more like a chicken's butt, because it was yellow. So, per usual, they make this whole party is about, like, you know, anonymous pleasure, anonymous sex. They give these kids masks with numbers on the front of them and Nokia cell phones.
Yes, a lot of Nokia cell
with
phones.
which to text each other if they want to hook up, and that way you don't have to know anything about the person that you're going to hook up with. They make this girl as asexual as possible, which is what they do in all movies with the girl who is supposed to be the comic relief, and most of the time with women who have short hair. They make them asexual characters so that you don't have to deal with the idea that women that are not, like, what we consider traditionally attractive or like conventionally sexy,
well, and also
as sexual beings.
It felt like they had, like, shoehorned her into this outfit. Like, this was not her everyday wear. This was, like, only for this film. It looked like they'd taken a mother of two and put that.
Well, it was obvious that she was older than the rest of the kids that were there. But they had given her a top where they cut a peephole in the
middle,
bust,
and then they take
and
safety
the
pins
safety
and
pin
put
it
them
together,
up.
which I did when I was in high school too.
It's a little bit of cleavage.
I didn't have any boobs though, so you couldn't really tell what was going on.
So she dies because she's going into a room, which should have been a scarier scene, but the music is so overwhelming in this whole film. Like, it's like
low rent Marilyn Manson.
They use the music like a weapon. Yeah. Trying to really drive drama from the scene. And it just ends up, everything just seems like you're at the same level of tension.
Right. It's like when everything's an emergency, nothing's an emergency.
So she goes into a room with all these sheets on things. She pulls off the sheet from something, and it's like a statue, and she's like, oh, it looks like you're happy to see me or something. And she looks down and sees...
she asks him how it's hanging.
Yeah, and she looks down, and it's like, it has a little statue
penis.
dick. And
because that's the way people made penises in that time period.
That's real. That's real life right there.
He's a grower, not a shower.
He's a grower, not a shower. And when
he had shrinkage. He was in the pool.
If you're gonna stand there while somebody gets a statue of you, imagine you're gonna go through phases. Maybe sometimes it was longer. Maybe sometimes it was shorter. Whenever he got down to the penis part, it was
Seems
shorter.
like maybe you've had a traumatic experience with this.
I'm just saying.
Would you like to talk about something?
I'm just saying. I might not be a shower either.
I think that's very brave of you.
Fuck, I don't care. I've got 2 kids. I don't give a shit.
It obviously works.
Yeah.
I mean, not anymore.
Not anymore, but it did.
Rob had a vasectomy.
Yes, I did. Where are we
Which
at?
I think makes you more of a man. If you want to talk about that some more, we can.
I don't. I've already said too much. Who else dies? So she gets in a chair. She pulls the sheet off of a chair. She gets in the chair and she's like, this is really dangerous. And then the chair, like...
claps her in. She gets the clap.
Blades come down and cut open her neck.
The caretaker appears.
I'm not even caring about the caretaker anymore.
Well, I mean, he
monologues the damn thing.
He does. He's like, this is only dangerous if you remove this pen. And then he removes the pen. And then she gets her head sliced open.
Yeah. So who else dies? You got the other friend who is really attracted to one girl inside the club. And while he's dancing with her, he has an asthma attack. Goes downstairs.
Well, because he drops his inhaler down a
grate. Into a grate or something. He goes down to find it. He finds his inhaler, and then while he's doing that, he lays down.
Well, he finds his inhaler, he uses it, and then he sits down on like a medical table to catch his breath. He ends up laying down, and then Pinhead appears and chops his head off. Which is the only time we ever see Pinhead.
Takes a cleaver, raises it above his head,
and chops it off.
And then in a very like slow motion scene, chops his head off.
Is it that easy to chop somebody's head off? I mean, you would know.
I don't think so. I don't know, but I don't think it is. Like, you gotta get through the bone.
There's a lot of meat in there.
This is a fitting end, I guess, to Pinhead, because he actually exerts himself in this one.
Fitting end? What do you mean?
Like, because this will be the last time he ever plays.
Oh, I guess.
Doug Bradley ever plays Hellraiser.
Maybe you just want to go out with a bang.
So he goes out with an arm swing. The only other person to die was...
Superman.
Was Henry Cavill. And Henry Cavill gets it because he's thinks with his penis instead of his head. And he chases after the wrong girl and ends up getting hooked by a giant meat hook. At the very end, the host, who's disappeared while they're all suffering underground, the cops find them, but in a lot of exposition, you find out that the guy who was chopped off, his head got chopped off, really just had an asthma attack and died underground from that.
Right.
Henry Cavill
died of a heart attack.
Died from fright. Good old fashioned fright, I believe, is what
That's
he says.
what they said, yeah.
And then
which would be a heart attack, wouldn't it?
Right. And then our punk poser died from... Oh, she says that she sliced her throat while writhing around.
Yeah, she was trying to get
out, and she ended up slicing up her throat.
Yeah, which I don't know how that's possible, but okay.
The other two get out, but they find out that the host is gone, and then the final scene is the host in a hotel room where he opens up the puzzle box. Hellraiser comes and takes him away.
Right.
End of movie.
Thank the Lord.
So, then we get to the final one. Hellraiser Revelations from 2011.
This is it, guys. This is it.
So...
Wait, where's my kazoo? I lost my kazoo.
It's on the ground right there.
It's on the ground. The end. The last one.
Oh my goodness. So Hellraiser Revelations. So, when a studio buys the rights to a movie in a franchise, they don't have those rights indefinitely.
Right.
They only have them however long they meet up with the agreement met in the contract. And in the contract, in a lot of contracts, films will say, like, or movie franchises will say, or properties will say, if you don't make a theatrical release film by a certain date, then the rights go back to the original owner. So in Hellraiser's case, they were coming up on this deadline where if they did not make a Hellraiser film that was released theatrically, they could not keep the rights.
Right.
Keep in mind, all these other films have been released direct to video, so they don't meet that standard. So they wrote Hellraiser Revelations.
And thank the Lord they did.
Oh, Jesus. So, for basically $400,000, they make a film. They put it on one screen, one night, for the cast and crew, and call it a theatrical release, and use that as evidence that they deserve to keep the rights.
Which I really think they should just let it go at this point and let somebody else
have a whack at it?
Yeah. Well, can I say what this film is about?
Sure.
It is about two affluent young men who suffer from affluenza.
Yeah, affluenza.
And they decide to take off one day and go to Tijuana. They keep saying it like that over and over. And then it didn't
because I started saying it like that after that. Tijuana.
Every time they said Tijuana normally, Rob would go Tijuana. It's terrible. They go to see a donkey show?
They wanted to go see a donkey.
What is a donkey show?
You know what a donkey show is?
No. Is it like a horse show where they...
Yes.
No, wait. What I'm saying, is it like a sexual thing?
Yes.
What I'm saying horse show is like where people bring their horses and they're like, look how pretty my horse is, and then you get a prize and then you leave. That's not what we're talking about.
No,
Okay.
that's not what we're talking about. So a donkey show is there's this most young men will know this story of the idea that in Tijuana you can go to a place and watch a donkey have sex with a woman.
Ew.
That's called a donkey show.
Ew.
I don't
Why
know
would
that
you
it's
wanna
ever
do
actually
that?
happened, but that's what we all believe happens all the time in Tijuana. So
Okay.
that's a donkey show.
Okay.
So they're going to see the donkey show in.
Well, look at that. I've learned something.
There you go.
The more you know.
So anyway, so the first part of this film is
in
done
Tijuana.
In
That's what you
Tijuana. The first part of this film takes place in basically found footage. It's their
Yes.
camera that they've been carrying around, and it's them in the car. They
Them in
meet
the car
a girl.
bitching about how rich they are and
Yes.
how sad that is for them.
They
who
meet-
fucking who?
They meet a Hispanic girl in Tijuana.
I mean, I believe she is Mexican if she's in Tijuana.
Right.
Yeah.
She doesn't speak English. The friend
So we have two boys, Steven and Nico.
Nico is the boyfriend of Steven's
Sister.
Steven is the
Steven.
brother of
Of Steven's
of
sister.
Steven's sister, yes. Steven meets this girl. He's flirting her up in the grossest way.
Flirting her up?
Flirting her up. Like they're being just creepy.
I mean, yeah.
They're super creepy. But then Steven's drunk in a bathroom, and
Nico
he finds
starts calling his name.
He finds Nico having sex with the girl from Tijuana, who's in the bathroom. This upsets Steven, but not that much. He's like, "Oh, you got me," and then he lays down and passes out. Next morning, he wakes up, and Steven...
I don't think it was the next morning. I think it was just like a few minutes later.
Cut back and forth between this, but
Yeah.
basically, he wakes up to find that Nico either killed the girl or the girl fell and broke her face on the toilet or
He killed her.
something along those lines.
He killed her. He's a weirdo.
Yeah.
He's one of those like hyped up super dicks.
He looks like Val Kilmer's younger brother.
Don't say that about Val Kilmer.
He does.
You know that I love Val Kilmer.
But he looks like Val Kilmer.
He is gorgeous.
The whole time I just wanted to say, I'll be your Huckleberry.
He just looks like maybe Val Kilmer's like dicky younger cousin.
His brother they don't talk to.
Sure, because he's an asshole.
Yeah.
This kid is your quintessential like asshole rich kid whose parents give him money instead of attention, and he thinks that the world owes him everything and that women owe him their vaginas. 100%.
Especially in Tijuana.
I'm so glad that we did not see this movie when we lived in Tampa, because there was a place there called Tijuana Flats, which has the best tacos in the world.
Yeah.
And
I would have been doing it all the time.
the whole time. Every time we wanted to go there, which was a lot.
Tijuana. It cuts between this plot line. But I will say this plot is basically just Hellraiser 1 rewritten.
Ugh.
It really is. Because
I mean, not that I'm defending Hellraiser 1.
Nico,
but, oh my God.
Nico is Frank. And Nico opens the box. Hellraiser rips him apart, or Pinhead rips him apart. Now, by the way, this is not Doug Bradley.
No, it is
This
motherfucking not.
Is not Pinhead.
No.
This is somebody cosplaying as Pinhead.
Yeah, badly.
Terribly. Like this is like third string Pinhead right here.
Yeah.
This guy has no presence. He does not have
His voice is a mess.
He does not have the authority to pull off the role. And I don't know, it just upset me. Like, it's upset me to watch this guy pretend to be Pinhead. I don't even like Hellraiser that much, but I wanted to see Doug Bradley back.
Yeah.
And he
I
wasn't
mean,
there.
nobody is Pinhead except Doug Bradley. That's it. End of story.
So,
even in all these really awful movies,
it's
him.
So, Pinhead rips him apart. like they have the scene where he says the same things that Hellraiser, like Pinhead says. He says, "You open the box, we came, blah blah blah." But he's saying it in like this weird hissing voice.
Yeah.
It's like almost like.
And the kid goes, here, take it and leave. And then Pinhead goes, no. Just like, no.
Yeah.
No. He's like a petulant child. It's like,
right.
fuck it, you're Pinhead, motherfucker.
Well, the whole film, they pretend like Pinhead's like living in their basement or something.
Yeah.
He's just hanging out in their basement, listening to everything that's being said.
The way that they had Frank sort of waiting around for Julia to bring him more 80s businessmen in the first movie is how they have Pinhead waiting around to be opened up or whatever in this movie. It's silly. He's fucking Pinhead. He's got better shit to do. He's the king of hell or whatever. He's got stuff happening. He doesn't have time to just sit in these rich people's house and wait for these shitty kids.
Right. Nico gets killed, and this screws Steven up, and he finds a prostitute of his own, or a sex worker of his own, takes her back, and kills her because a voice in his head is telling him. Was the voice Nico's, or was it?
It was Nico.
So Nico's in his head telling him to kill her. He does. And then, okay, so in Hellraiser 1 and 2, there's a scene where Frank comes back to life, and he's like, because...
they drip blood on the floor where Frank died.
And he, like, reassembles himself.
Yeah.
And 2...
Over time.
In 2, Julia reassembles herself on the mattress after...
because she died on the mattress.
After the professor kills... Yeah, the professor brings the patient in, and the patient kills himself. And Julia reincorporates herself.
Yeah.
They worked really hard on those scenes. So, like, they could come out of the mattress and be really, really creepy. Especially in the first one.
Yeah, because this was full 80s. Like,
Frank's
was
like, it was like reverse animation.
These were all practical effects.
Oh, it was
masterful, comparatively.
In this one, they just use the fact that you know that happened, and they do a quick pan.
But he didn't die on the mattress. So he can't come back from the mattress. You can die from you can come back from where you died from.
Yeah, that's true.
It's dumb.
They changed the
changed the rules. You can't change the rules. Like at the end of the game.
Yeah, literally the end of the game.
He didn't die there. He died on the fucking floor. Plot hole.
They decide to do away with the whole, bringing him out of the ground or bringing him out of the mattress or anything, and they just do like a quick camera pan, and he's there on the bed with them, and he just monologues everything that's been everything you need to know.
He's like, I'm coming back. Bring me
more.
He's
like, I need more blood, and I can come back and be a person again.
And he's like, sure.
Okay, so yeah. Also, Pinhead, instead of making you a Cenobite, makes you into a mini Pinhead.
Yes.
Because he's like slowly putting this person back together with
a mini pin,
with his own pins or whatever, and putting little pieces of flesh on him, putting little pieces of flesh on him, and calling it all fine. So there's no Cenobites. Do you get your own
fleshlight at some point?
Ooh, Pinhead fleshlight. I don't want a Pinhead fleshlight. That sounds terrible.
That sounds adorable.
Little pins sticking in it.
It sounds sexy.
Does not. I don't know if that's going to be a bestseller. Maybe it will in some communities. Who knows?
Who knows? You're into what you're into.
Yeah. You get what you get and you don't throw a fit.
Okay, sure.
This is intercut with scenes from Days of Our Lives.
Yes.
Where a family
These very wealthy people in LA
are dealing with the residual effects of these kids going missing.
Right. So how we're introduced to this idea is because Steven's mom is watching the found footage tape. They never explain how they get their bags. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they never explain like how they got all their stuff back.
They have no clue what happened to these kids.
They just assume that their sons are dead. Right? And so Steven has a little sister. Forget her fucking name. It's like Emma or Allison or something shitty.
The outfit that they gave her.
Okay, this is probably what's supposed to be like a 16, 17-year-old girl. Girlfriend has her tits out at dinner. Family dinner.
This is a fancy dinner party.
It's Steven's family and Nico's family coming together to have dinner and not talk about their sons being dead or assholes.
Of course, on this one random night, Steven comes back. Steven appears to his sister. She brings him in, and he's distraught. He's doing all kinds of weird things. He's standing at the poolside talking about how they're coming, and he explains what Cenobites are. He's like, the Cenobites, which are these demons from under the ground, will come and get you.
Well, no, he says Cenobites and just explains the whole story about what happened to them.
They Wikipedia Cenobites.
The sister goes and gets the dictionary and reads the definition of Cenobites, which I didn't know was a real thing.
And I looked up too. It's exactly what she says it is. So she looks up the Cenobites and gives a definition, and the definition given for Cenobites does not make a lot of sense with these movies.
No.
A member of a monastic community.
What's monastic mean?
Okay, monastic. Relating to monks, nuns, or other living under religious vows.
Nope.
Or the buildings in which they live.
That doesn't make any sense.
Especially since we've already talked about how this is a secular hell that they live in.
Right.
It has nothing to do with religion, and that's why Pinhead always refers to religion so much, because he's trying to say, like,
well, whenever he
jokes on you.
Talks about, like, you know, when people start throwing crucifixes at him, he's like, do I look like someone that cares what God thinks, you know?
Because he's not religious.
Which is badass.
Then Steven makes a pass at his sister.
He doesn't make a pass at her. He makes it to second base.
Rounding on third, too.
He starts making out with her. He reaches in her shirt and grabs her boob. Mm-hmm. Her underage boob.
Right, we're assuming. She also makes a pass at the family friend.
The friend's, at Nico's dad.
Where you think they were trying to say that was like the influence that was being, like, she was starting to be influenced by the evil that's permeating, because she had found the puzzle box and all that.
I don't know. There was a lot of weird.
But then again, it was just throwaway. It never goes back, never talks about it again.
Right.
So it doesn't pay off in any way. But anyway, so Steven makes a pass at her. She's down for the pass, but then gets freaked out and runs off.
Understandably, because he's her brother.
Right.
Or is he?
Dun, 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 dun. Wait, where's your kazoo?
Oh, wait.
Get your kazoo.
This thing really upsets the dog.
So,
I see you. Stop licking.
So Steven makes sure, he tells his dad that they're coming to get him, and he wants to know if they'll keep him safe. Mm-hmm. 10 minutes later, he gets a shotgun and shoots his dad in the chest. It's going to make that a hard promise to keep.
Yes.
You find out that Steven isn't Steven. Steven is
Nico. In a Steven suit.
Nico pulled a Frank and cut...
Skin Steven,
who wasn't willing to kill more for him. Skinned him, put his skin on, and has reappeared for the family.
Yes.
Steven is the Pinhead light.
Yes, he's the apprentice. Pinhead's apprentice.
The Pinprentice.
Baby Pinhead. Oh, this is the point at which I fell asleep.
Yes.
So I have nothing to say about the next part.
You actually don't know what happened.
No, I don't.
I was too tired to talk about it when it happened. So...
we did actually watch this particular film together.
Yes. Well, the thing is, this one was hard to find.
Yeah.
I actually had to subscribe to a completely different...
We had to subscribe to 2 different streaming services in order to get all of these films.
Especially this one.
Yeah.
This one is not just available.
Oh, no, I did see this part. So, Nico Steven kills his dad, and then the bum guy from Tijuana that gives them the puzzle box shows up and cuts Nico's dad's face off.
Yeah. Well, he doesn't really cut his... So...
He saws into the top of his face.
He has a very fake-looking knife, and he's just, like, sawing across the top of his head.
Yeah.
And the dad's screaming. And then the dad runs inside, and they decided somewhere in between those things happening that they showed you, somebody peeled most of his face off.
Yes.
Because that didn't happen when the guy had a hold of him.
Right.
It obviously didn't happen. It happened sometime after. So I think he was running away, and while he was running away, he was just dragging his face on the ground, and that concrete was ripping pieces of his face. I mean, that's the only explanation, because the pieces that are missing from his face make no sense with how the guy was sawing on his face.
Babe.
I'm just saying,
movie doesn't make any sense.
That didn't make any sense. But yeah, that's pretty much it. The movie ends.
That's how it ends?
Yeah, pretty much.
Does like Pinhead ever come up to the house?
Yeah, he comes to get Steven. So Steven forces
his sister
to open the box. Well, yeah. And
Nico Steven
has the idea he's going to give the sister to
the Cenobites.
Pinhead, and that's going to satiate him.
Right.
But Pinhead doesn't want the sister. He wants
Steven.
Steven.
Nico Steven.
Then the dad shoots Steven and takes away his... Basically gives Pinhead a soapbox to preach at us for about 15 minutes.
They should not have let
They
Pinhead
gave him
talk so much.
So many lines of dialogue.
He just is a... Ugh.
So he talks about how, they cheated him out of their prize. He wants somebody else, so he takes the mom. He sends the hook to get the mom. And then instead of ripping her apart, because that would probably be too expensive,
You drag her
they
off
just
into
drag her into the
shadows.
darkness. Then Pinhead leaves. The dad dies, leaving only the girl, who grabs the box and gives a weird look to camera.
And then we end.
Then we end.
And then we are done.
All right, so final thoughts on the series.
I am so happy that it's over. I cannot tell you how happy I am that it's over.
I didn't like how, especially towards the last 5, they got to a place where dream sequences were a staple, and they had to do everything terrifying in the dream sequence.
Right.
Because it just felt like a
because it wasn't
cop-out.
real or something.
The Cenobites changed almost per movie. We had one cast of Cenobites, and then they would change to somebody else, and then they would just experiment with other people. You had Hellseeker, where they were suddenly just faceless things. Well, no, Infernos, where they changed them to the faceless things. They kept that for a little while, and then they got rid of them. They brought back Chatterbox in the final one, but before that and that was another thing. Remember, the chattering would be a stable through the first 4, and then that disappears. And then they brought it back for this last one.
Feels like they were making more of an homage in the last one, but
The music is
weird
all of
throughout.
We've talked about how they tried to score number 3, I believe, with rock
with rock
bands.
music. And wasn't it Mushroomhead did the Motorhead?
Iron Maiden? No, Motorhead. Motorhead was, they did a...
Mushroomhead.
Yeah,
That's a very different thing.
I think it's more, yeah. But the music changed. They tried all sorts of things, especially the Hellraiser, or especially in Hellworld and Deader, they went for a more contemporary, alternative rock theme.
Like we said, low rent Marilyn Manson.
But yeah, so that was the whole series.
Jesus H. We're done.
Or was it?
Nope, it is. We're done.
It's not. Guess what?
No. Are you kidding?
Nope, I'm not.
What? Don't do this to me. You know I've been so excited this whole week because we were going to be done.
So,
are you about to poop on my puppy?
about to do some pooping.
Oh, Robert, you're a terrible person. Why would you do this?
So,
the dog just looked at me like, who's pooping on a puppy?
Hellraiser Judgment is set for release in 2017.
What the fuck?
There will be a new Hellraiser movie coming out this year.
Oh my god.
And when it comes out, we will have to review it.
Fine. We'll do
Pinhead,
a very special episode.
Pinhead will be played by Paul T. Taylor. That's him.
Okay,
Do you think he'll do a better job?
Than this last guy? Yeah. They gave a young guy the Pinhead role in the last film.
The fact that they did not come back to the guy from the last one says
Speaks
a lot.
volumes. Yeah. We're done with all the current ones. We're finished for a while.
Which Hellraiser movie was your favorite?
Hellseeker.
The one with the mayhem guy.
Because my girl Kirsty's back.
Kirsty does come back.
Oh, you mean my favorite out of all of them? Not
Yes.
just the ones that we covered today in this incredibly
over
long
the
episode?
Over the entire series.
I'm going to say the second one. Hellraiser 2 was my favorite of all of them.
So when Julia was the main character, really?
When Kirsty was the main character.
Well,
yes.
Julia was the main character.
They were.
And it's funny because they made her kind of an anti-hero in that. She does. Remember, she beats up on Frank.
I mean, I guess.
I
mean, but it felt like, like these ladies that had been kind of abused and whatever in the first film came back and they were like, fuck you. And then they just took it themselves and they made it their own. And it was pretty fucking cool. I liked that one.
Yeah.
That was my favorite. Which one was your favorite?
I'm getting to, after watching all of them, I think I've gotten to a place where I've really appreciated Hell on Earth.
Yeah, the third one.
It seemed like, although the acting really sucked in that movie,
It wasn't that bad. I mean, comparatively.
well, you had like Kinky Boots and his
Mesh top.
extremely bad acting.
Yep.
But they were trying something epic with it.
Yeah.
The club scene was pretty cool. Hellraiser 1 though had its, I think because they were putting so much effort into like making it look creepy, and it had the goopiness, and the goopiness is something that goes missing towards especially the directed video sequels.
Yeah.
They just stopped gooping it.
Goop is important.
The goopiness is what made it like
super nasty.
Yeah.
But good. It had its own flair. We never saw the penis monster again.
Nope.
Very
Or the operator for the penis monster.
Very
He did not
disappointed.
make an appearance anyway.
Who knows? Maybe he's one of the characters. in
They tried, especially with the 2 back-to-back ones, they tried to like give it to a teen
audience.
Like they tried to make it more contemporary and hip.
Because it wasn't a theatrical release. It was just a video. So like, unless you knew Hellraiser, why would you pick that up? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because that was video store height.
I feel like maybe this last one, Revelations, that was an opportunity lost. Like they could have done something really cool with that.
Hell yes, they could have.
They just needed to put more effort into it.
Yeah. Agreed. They needed a better Pinhead too.
Yeah. But we'll see what they do with Judgment, and
we'll let you know when we find out.
If you appreciate what we're doing and you want us to watch more films for you, then let us know by rating us on iTunes or whatever podcast app you're listening to us on. And if you want to get a hold of us, at ScaredyCatPod on any of the social medias.
Instagram, Facebook, Twitter.
All right. So until next time, adios.
Bye.
Muchachos.